Together we are but first coffee. Susie's just our host, but what matters most is we are a team. Together we are all safe here, and so are you. Among friends and mods we are safe. We talk about trauma, break down drama of life, death, happy or sad, even mad. We discuss it all here. Together we will thrive, not just survive. We will dry each other's tears, celebrate big or small wins, and chase away the fears. Together we fight cults or fight addictions. If not with experience, with love, and we don't judge. Please understand, this is a safe place to land. Please understand, you're not alone. This is a safe place to land. Together we thrive, not just survive. We will dry each other's tears, celebrate big or small wins, and chase away the fears. Because we are but first coffee, and Susie welcomes us all here. Together we are but first coffee, and Susie.
Hey, everybody. It's good to see you. I took a little day off yesterday in case y'all didn't notice. I was uh I was tired, y'all, after my birthday and everything. I just was really tired. And we kind of had a kind of a rough day yesterday. So that kind of led into it too. My little dog, he's a little multi-poo and he passed early yesterday morning. So anyway, I got a hold of Mischief and I said, I'm just I'm not I'm not here today. I can't do it. So anyway, it was kind of a rough day. We canceled my birthday plans and everything. I just stayed home and actually worked on this week's shows and some for next week and just, you know, just rested. So anyway, but I am, thank you, Heat. I am glad to be back. I'm doing fine. Mark's having a hard time. That was his baby. It was funny. Hollis, he was a little white, fluffy Maltipoo, and he was supposed to be my little lap dog, but he ended up being what Mark called a farm dog. He rode on the tractor with Mark. He rode in the truck with Mark. He, you know, followed him around all over the place. If Mark was out in the garden, he was out there. So everywhere he was, Mark was there. But he had been getting older and he had been getting to where he did a lot more sleeping than he did traveling. So we kind of knew we had him to the vet and everything was fine with him. He just getting older. So anyway, he passed, but it's so sad and everything, but I would have much rather it been like that. He passed in his sleep, no pain, no nothing, just went to sleep. So, anyway, so I'm back, but y'all know how that is. We all love our pets. They are just children to us, aren't they? So, anyway, I want to check in with the chat for just a minute and then we're going to get started. that Today it is kind of funny. I'll tell you this before I get started. I had yesterday I had written up the notes or like an outline form for today's live, and it was actually going to be um, about 5 dangerous cults that probably next to nobody's heard of. Like, I mean, I'm sure somebody's heard of them, but a lot of people have not heard of them. Well, for some reason, I thought, well, I wonder about, yeah, rabbit hole, right? I wonder about. So I went and I looked up something that because I had just hit the high points, of each cult. So anyway, I thought, well, I wonder about this one, and I wonder how this turned out. So I went and I looked up that. Well, then that made me have another question and another question and another question. And so now we're going to have once a week for 5 weeks. We're going to tackle one of each of these 5 cults. So, cuz if we did it all today, y'all, we would still be here at breakfast. And it's not even dinner time yet. So, and that's just the truth. So, oh, let me click this little button so it'll show the comments on the screen. It'll if it will do that in a minute, start doing that. It takes it a little bit to kick in, but that helps for the people on the replay. They like to be able to see what we're talking about. So, anyway, now I'm going to check in with the chat. There it goes. It's starting to work now. So, David says, look up the Finding the Finders CIA involved STNC essay on kids. I wrote that down and I will be looking at that. Thank you very much. It's always nice to have little tips to follow up on and see what I can find. Mischief is here. She's in the back office and she's saying hello to everybody. Yeah, wherever you are, whenever you are. Absolutely. There's Joel. Good to see you. Mayor's here. Absolutely good to see you. I saw this and started myself. Joel says, I have another present for my wife. I did not think I would get it done in time. Let's see, put it over here where I can read it. She has a necklace, pin, bracelet set that was her grandmother's. All pieces were broken. I had it fixed and it looks great. Can you imagine? That is, I don't know. That is just absolutely lovely. That is, I agree, Mara. That's fantastic. She's going to love that. Hey, Darcy's good to see you. Joel also said, I had all the missing stones, garnets replaced, other problems fixed, new chain and magnetic clip. It looks great, or clasp. It looks great. I can only imagine. That's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Just a quiet, peaceful dance. Hello to you too. Hey, Clearwater Chad. Hadn't seen you in a while. It's good to see you. Evie, good to see you. Just mischief popping in. Yeah. It's good to see everybody. Yes, isn't that sweet? Quiet, peaceful dance. That is just Joel is like so sweet. He says she's a keeper. I bet she thinks he is too. Absolutely. Joel, before I forget, let me look this up. I talked to my friend. His name is Ron Alvarado. I don't know if I think you got that the other day. He says that he works for still does for the Denver News Agency. And he says that they print a shit ton of papers. He says that they do print the Pueblo Chieftain and also or he used to work, sorry, yeah. He says they do print that, the New York Times, the USA Today, the Wall Street Journal, a bunch of stuff. And he said that he used to work at the Bakersfield Californian, San Jose Mercury News, Arizona Republic, and Rocky Mountain News. But he's been at the Denver News Agency for several years. So, anyway, I told him that I would tell you. So, there you go. I think that was all I was looking at on that. Was that it? Yeah. So, Heat My Short says, hey, Susie and everyone. I'm busy doing things, but I just wanted to pop in and say hi. Much love to all. Much love to you too. Thank you for popping in. You can always come back on the replay. We'll let you. Totally Jersey. Hey, good to see you. It feels, yeah, it's the first live you've caught in a while. I was about to say, feels like I haven't seen you in a while, but I'm glad to see you. We just get busy, don't we? We truly do. Hey, Evie. Thank you. He, yeah, it really, it's so hard to lose those babies, it just is. It's so hard. It's I'm trying to unstar some so I don't get in trouble. Thank you, Avie. Thank you also. It is just hard. Whoops. Helps if I push the right buttons. Evidently, I'm still not pushing the right buttons. Okay, caught myself up now. Aw, thank you. Sending support for me and my family. Thank you, Heath. That's very sweet. Aw. Thank you, Darcy's, you too. Aw. Just a quiet, peaceful dance. Her dog died a year ago. I'm so sorry. I just aw. Joel says, "Oh no, I'm sorry to hear about your dog. I know how much it hurts. It sounds like you and Mark gave him a wonderful home. You gave him a good life and he gave you love and joy. Great trade." Absolutely. Absolutely. He was adored from the day he got here, and he was literally 6 or 7 weeks old when he got here. So we've had him for years, years and years. Thanks, Mare. I will. I'm gonna give Mark all of y'all's love. Yeah, Poppy. She'll probably be in here in a minute. She usually knows I'm on live and she comes in. Oh, you're talking to Poppy the boxer. Well, I was talking about my Poppy. But hello, Poppy the boxer. It is good to see you too. Yes, they are family. Aw. Your sister lost her yeah, she did, didn't she? Your sister lost her pup the day before. Yeah, it has been a crap year for furry parents. Absolutely. Aw. I miss a newspaper too. We don't get a newspaper out here, and I miss them. I like to read a newspaper. It's like I like to read books, so I know what you're saying, Dance. I really do. I miss that. Yeah. Okay, I think I'm back to the bottom. Oh, yeah. Mayor's saying that her sister's dog had surgery 6 months ago, had lost an eye, was called the Dread Pirate Daisy after that. Yeah. I know, it's so sad. Aw, your boxer has one eye too, Vanessa. That's aw. My daughter had oh gosh, of course, I'm not gonna be able to remember what it was. A husky. I was about to say, I know what it was. She was her name was Nova, and she was beautiful, and she had those beautiful blue eyes, and she would run around at night, she would just cry and want out, and they would finally let her out, and she would run around out in the pasture and everything, and apparently she poked her eye out on something. So, she lost an eye, but she was still beautiful, but yeah, she had lost an eye. So, anyway, y'all, I'm gonna get started because there's a lot of stuff to talk about with this group. So, welcome back to But First Coffee, Susie Oberholtz, and today we are starting what has turned out to be part 1 in 5 of a weekly series about the most dangerous, mostly unheard of cults. And today we're going to learn about Dwight York, I'm sorry, and the Nuwaubian Nation. And hey, it's quite a story, y'all. He parked his Egyptian themed cult in Eatonton, Georgia, as in the USA, y'all, complete with pyramids and sphinxes and, or sphinx. I guess there's not a is on the end. But anyway, they wore long ceremonial robes and participated in parades and just all kinds of stuff. But we're going to look beyond his delusional glitz and glamour, and I bet that you'll see a few characteristics that liken a lot to L. Ron Hubbard and Scientology. I was just amazed, actually. So I do have several notes here so that I'll kind of keep myself on a like a tide, like a time of what went on so that I don't just bounce all over the place. So anyway, let me bring up this first picture. I only have I think 3 or 4. But anyway, this is Dwight York. He is the leader of this cult that we're going to learn about today. And this is a picture of the compound. And they actually, I mean, they had actual uh, pyramids and they built pyramids and sphinx and all kinds of stuff there. I mean, it looked very much Egyptian, except, of course, there's always an except, but except for the ones that, you know, where the people lived and stuff. A lot of them that lived there, they lived in just ratty ass, like, trailers and you know, small, ratty mobile homes and travel trailers and converted this and that, just whatever, and they didn't live very good at all, but of course he did. Absolutely, he did. So that's what we're talking about is this guy with his, crown and his robes and all this Egyptian stuff. So the Nuwabi Nation, the founder is Dwight York. I want to say Yoke. I wonder why. I don't know. Dwight York, also known as Malachi Z. York or just Dr. York. Now, was he really a doctor? Well, of course not. That was pure showmanship, y'all. He claimed to be a master teacher, Dr. York, the supreme grand hierophant, the Egyptian order of the New World, the Mahdi, the Christ, the Melchizedek in the flesh, and at one point he claimed to be from the 19th galaxy of Iluan, which was another planet. So yeah, PhD in fiction, except kind of a big no to that too. No PhD in anything. No actual degrees in anything. Couldn't even find anything where he had went to college at all. So, he also, y'all, as if all of those titles wasn't enough, he also claimed to be an angelic being, a Native American chief, an extraterrestrial being from the planet Rizq, Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, and a Moabite king. Y'all, he had more titles than a Barnes& and Noble. Good lord. So, anyway, the experts say, okay, the experts basically call BS on everything that he claimed to be. The Southern Poverty Law Center and the FBI confirm no evidence of any doctoral degree or any college. He created, okay, quote unquote, created the religious orders that he supposedly had all this, documentation and everything from, and even universities. He like made up universities as part of his mythology and mind control. Sound familiar? Yeah, crazy, isn't it? So, why did the doctor title even really matter? It gave him a false legitimacy. It made people believe that he was, some kind of academic or spiritual guru, that he like was, a little bit, I don't know, fancier, basically, a little higher falutin than what he really was. And he did use that title to publish hundreds of bizarre books, make legal claims, and convince followers that he was legitimate. They really thought that he was a brilliant scholar. Sound familiar? So, anyway, they started out in New York, okay? But in 1993, York moved from New York to Eatonton, Georgia, which is about 170 miles northwest of Savannah. And it's in Putnam County, in case anybody is from around there and wondering where it's at, because it's just a little place. But anyway, so that kind of gives you an idea where it's at. It's a very rural area. It's just lots of trees and overgrown wildlife. A lot of two-laned roads, not a whole lot of, well, hello, baby. Yeah, there's Mags. She's getting so big, y'all. She's huge. I can't lift her or I'd bring her up here. What you doing? You gonna sit by mommy? Okay. Oh, no, you can't sit. No. Oh, well, hold on. I'll see if I can you see her up? Come here. Come here. Oh, my goodness. I'm gonna show you off and then you gotta get down. I can't lift you for long. Yeah, look at my little tiny baby and how big she is now. She's a big girl. She's my little angel baby, aren't you? Yeah. Aw, yes. Why are you coming in to get loves? You ready for a nap? Okay. All right. You need to get down though. Thank you. There you go. Thank you. Sorry about that. Every once in a while, she just needs her mama for a minute, and then she's off. She is a mini Australian Shepherd. For those of you, yeah, that are wondering. So she's honestly just about as big as she's going to get. Maybe a little bit bigger, but not much. We have a actual full size Australian Shepherd male, and he looks huge compared to her. So anyway, so yeah, they moved to Eatonton, Georgia. It's rural, a lot of trees, a lot of overgrowth, two-lane roads, and a town square, y'all. It's just a really quaint, very southern, you know, feeling little town. I mean, it is just very southern and sweet. And then can you imagine in rolls this cult and they start building up all these, oh my word, you know, pyramids and all that kind of stuff. I imagine they were just like, what in the actual hell is going on? I know I would have been. At first they were probably like, what in the world? But after a while they're probably like, oh geez. So anyway, before the cult, or at least, you know, 3 or 400 of their most loyal people moved in. It was best known as the hometown to two authors, Alice Walker, who wrote The Color Purple, and Joel Chandler Harris, who wrote Uncle Remus Tales, both of which I've read, which is kind of cool. Didn't realize that they were both from the same town. But I did buy the books in Savannah, so because they were very big on supporting anybody from uh, Georgia. So So anyway, they built this massive compound and they called it Tama Ray. And they modeled it after ancient Egypt, with the pyramids, the Sphinx. It had black statues of Egyptian gods. Members all lived on the land. They homeschooled their kids there. They followed very, very strict codes. It was kind of like worldly almost though. And I mean, kind of like, think Wakanda meets Waco, basically. You got all this, Wakanda kind of thing going on, and then, but at the same time, more like Waco. So their beliefs were basically a cosmic gumbo, guys, a mixture of all kinds of things. Nuwabian doctrine constantly changes or changed. Actually, it still does. York called it what he called was right knowledge, which all these other words for everything. But he said that the truth had to evolve. That's how you knew it was truth if it evolved. So so here's just a little bit of some of their beliefs. Okay, they believed that black people were descendants of Egyptians and extraterrestrials. So they believed that they were a combination of Egyptians and extraterrestrials from the planet Rizq, and that's Rizq for because my accent doesn't do well with some things. So they also believe that white people were created in a lab 6,000 years ago, which is similar to the Nation of Islam's Yaqub theory. So they believe that Dwight York was a savior, a pharaoh, a Christ figure, and a being from another planet, kind of all at once. And I don't know, crazy. They were into apocalyptic prophecies, Y2K panic, and a lot of government conspiracies. They also believed in reptilian shifters and beings of light. They believed that they were part of the spiritual cosmology. So they I don't know. I don't know that they ever saw anybody doing any shape shifting, but they believed it. Yeah, Wakanda meets Waco. That's what it sounded like to me with all of the, the fancy stuff and, all that. And then, but also these dumpy looking trailers and everything. It just reminded me of the two, kind of a combination of the two. So, but this Dwight York, he was a busy little dude. He also dabbled in Freemasonry, and I'm going to say this word wrong, Rosicrucianism, uh, Native American identity, Christianity, and UFO cults. So basically, a theological buffet of everything that he had ever read at the library. So, how did he fund this compound? I that takes a lot of money to build those statues and those pyramids and the Sphinx and all that. There had to be some money in there. And so it took a while because everything I said or everything I looked at said that it was kind of shady and it was kind of hard to get um, a real fix on how they got their money. But I did finally find that they did have member donations and mandatory tithing, which started at 10% and went up. So, most churches they like for you to tithe 10%, but this one that's where it started. So, any new members signed over their savings, their paychecks, their car, property deeds, anything like that that they had, they signed it over to him. So, yeah, another thing was that they would give as they were told to, not, just a straight 10%. So you might be given 10%, but your neighbor over here might be given 30% or something. So, it just depended on him, what he decided to say. And if you didn't do what he said, then you would be spiritually cut off. So, yeah, that was kind of also a little eerily Scientology. And the children did sell Nuwabian literature and goods. Like if the members made things, crafty things and stuff, they would send the kids to sell them because they thought that it was harder for people to turn down children than it would be for them to turn down adults. But of course, all the money was funneled right back to York. I mean, he kept the lights on and all that kind of stuff and kept them fed. But they did also have to work. So, they had to be working. It wasn't just you're here and you're working here. Yes, they worked there, but they also had to have paying jobs because he had to have those tithes. It wasn't well, if you work for us, you don't have to pay. No, you paid and you worked there for free. So they had lots of merchandising and book sales. He wrote hundreds. I never could find a total because, they say that LRH, like, wrote, the most or whatever, but I'm like, "What did this guy write?" Because, how close was he to LRH? But anyways, so, the members were also forced, y'all, absolutely required to buy all of his stuff, all of his books, all any kind of literature that he put out, anything, and also to rebuy it because, the truth changes, right? It evolves. The truth evolves. So he would not only write something, but then the truth would evolve. And so he would rewrite the same thing over and over and just make changes to it. And they had to buy those too. Kind of a handy little thing. Kind of reminds me of Scientology too. So they also had, I'm not sure, where did you hear it from before, Incarnate Soul? I don't know. It it did kinda become a big deal, so you've probably heard about it in the news, so I'm almost there. But, yeah. But anyway, so they had business fronts too. They owned convenience stores, barber shops, clothing stores. They had a music label called Passion Productions, and basically, only thing I could find that they actually produced there was some kinda weird rhythm and blues type thing that York did, right? But it was a spoken word albums. It wasn't like he didn't sing, he spoke, but it was I don't know, rhythm and blues. But I never did see if it had like music behind it or what. I just that was all I could find on that. So yeah, he saved millions probably in unpaid labor, and that was even the teenagers, they had to work just as hard as the adults did. They lived in cramped, unsanitary trailers, but of course, York lived lavishly and he ate way better than they did. These people were hungry a lot and cold or hot. They didn't have all the air conditioning and heating and all that stuff. And Georgia has some weather, y'all. It's not, and especially further in, the further in you go, it's even a little more bothered by weather. So, of course, there's illegal activity because why wouldn't there be, right? They had money laundering, tax evasion, and racketeering. They were just some busy people. And guess what? They were tax exempt because they were what? A religion. Hmm. But it was also weird because they also registered as a Native American tribe. And so then they also registered as a religious institution. And then they also registered as a cultural center. And I guess this whole wackadoodle mole strategy, it kept the local officials really confused for a while. They were like, What are they?" I mean, and but after a while, the feds caught up with it and you know s- stepped in, and so we're almost to that part. So I really wondered a lot because just the little breakdown that I got told mostly about like their beliefs and that about them building this Egyptian compound. But I wondered, well, what what were their cult like behaviors? I mean, what did they do that makes them a cult? Why weren't they just a weird religion or something? But yeah, there's a lot. So the members were forced to cut ties with everybody on the outside. Everybody that was not in that group was considered an outsider, and that could be your family, your friends, whatever. So you were forced to cut ties with anybody that was not in the group. And York had absolutely and complete control, y'all. He controlled their clothing, their food, who they married, if they had children, how many children they had. I mean, everything. And speaking of children, the children were isolated and heavily indoctrinated. I mean, it from as soon as they was old enough to have any kind of a understanding of what was going on, they were being indoctrinated. So, they also were not the children, but the members, they had a select group that were heavily armed, and they patrolled the perimeters of this compound with, I mean, all kinds of weaponry and a high fence all around it, which, it was kinda hard to figure out if they were trying to keep people out or trying to keep people in or both. I'm kinda going for both, but although they were allowed to leave, but, you know, I think they were so scared that they always came back, or most always went back. It was crazy secretive. Nobody would talk. If you asked questions about what was going on out there, nobody would answer. It was all just very, very secretive. There was child abuse, forced marriages, even of too young to be getting married teens, and there was trafficking, human trafficking. So, but like I was saying, it eventually, because I think honestly, because of their evasion of taxes and all this, claiming to be a religion, claiming to be a church, claiming to be a Native American tribe, claiming to be a historical type deal, a cultural type center, all these things, they just kept trying to, play fast and hard with the terms and what was going to reap them the biggest benefits. And that got the FBI and the Internal Revenue Service in on them. So in 2002, York was actually arrested and indicted on over 100 counts of child molestation. So once they started really getting into it, they some of the people that left told. They started telling, and the kids started telling. So the FBI and the IRS did a joint raid on the Tama Ray compound, and it was a big deal, y'all. So that's where you've probably heard about it from, is that it was a huge deal. So, in 2004, York was convicted and sentenced to 135 years in federal prison for the child molestation alone. I never did find what the actual court ruling was on all of the tax evasion and everything. But I couldn't find the actual records on it, but I do know that it was settled, and we'll get into that in a minute too. So, some of the key details was that he did plead guilty to some of the charges, but then he tried to recant because, I mean, of course he did. Dozens of his victims, mostly child former members, children that had been members, testified against him in court. And I mean, told it all. Like, there was really no defense, after they got done telling everything. But the also so did adults. Adults told stuff too, but the children, I mean, I was just very just, you know, proud of them for speaking up. So anyway, but all when this happened, y'all, of course, the cult still claimed that he was innocent and they called him a political prisoner. So in 2005, the Tama Ray compound was bulldozed. It was ordered by the US federal government after all of everything was seized, the property was seized, and it was sold by auction to a private owner. Now, this private owner is actually the one that paid to have it bulldozed. He wanted those everything. He wanted all that gone. All the pyramids, the Sphinx, everything. He bulldozed it all, and he burnt what he needed to burn. He hauled off what needed to be hauled. It's gone. So, I wondered then also, like, what is it now? Did he sell that off as parcels or what? But he didn't. No, he kept it. And it didn't tell who he was. I couldn't find any information on who this private buyer was. But he let it go mostly back to nature. They said that, there's trees growing there again and underbrush and all that. He just wanted the new owner said that he just wanted to erase all the memory of the abuse and the crimes and everything. He wanted it all erased like it had never been there. And so that's what he did. He bulldozed it under and it's gone. So anyway, so why does all of this matter to us about this cult? Why should we be paying attention to this cult in particular? And that is because it really shows us how a charismatic leader can use race, religion, mysticism, and conspiracy to manipulate and isolate its members. I mean, he didn't just like use one thing, he just like had a whole smorgasbord of it. If maybe the mysticism stuff didn't work for you, but maybe the conspiracy theories did, or maybe, just and the race stuff, he really was constantly race baiting people, to he wanted the blacks to hate the whites, and he made the whites all out to be evil, and it was awful. So anyway, so it also shows us that child abuse and cult control happen even in rural areas in this country, in the USA. I don't know, we think of it in other countries, we don't think of it so much in rural America, but it happens a lot. I have got lists and lists of cults that are in rural areas in like Arkansas and Vermont and everything. They really like those rural areas because it's easier for them to operate under the radar. So, and this actually still, even 20 years later, is recognized as one of the most bizarre and the most dangerous cults in modern US history. So, we really need to know about it because, knowledge is power, and when you know about this kind of stuff and you know that this really does happen, then it just, it can help us to keep another one from starting up and taking over. It would help, like, I'm sure that whoever sold him that land had no idea that he was gonna come in and build a huge cult compound. But if we know that this kind of stuff happens, then, we'll be more likely to pay attention if somebody comes in and tries to offer to buy our land. Like here in Oklahoma, we've got all these Chinese people that are coming in and paying 2 and 3 times the price that land is worth, which to me, warning signs, red flags are flying all over the place if somebody's just coming in. Now they don't come in themselves. So you're not like, "Oh, well, here's these Chinese people." No. They get locals. One guy here very close to us got arrested not very long ago because he was working on behalf of these Chinese people, and I'm not, like, bad-mouthing Chinese people, that's just the facts of who it is. So, anyway, so they come in and they buy this land at, like, 3 and 4 times what it's worth, and then they set up these marijuana grows. Well, it all looks on the up and up for a while, but then they get to, cutting corners and breaking laws, and pretty soon there's a big old raid and everything. Well, this guy, his old butt's going to jail, and he's kind of a big figure in the town, and I don't know, I think it's almost funny because he knew who he was working for. He tries to act like he doesn't, but he knew who he was doing it. In fact, they bought his land from him. He knew exactly what he was doing. But yeah. But he also, by him being in on it, he kind of made other people wanna be in on it. So, just like how we need to be diligent with these, Chinese companies coming in and trying to buy up our land, we also need to be diligent in people coming in, just from out of nowhere and wanting to buy land. Look into it a little bit more, find out, just try to make sure that it's not a cult that's trying to come in. So, yeah, after his, um, 2002 arrest, the group kinda splintered and, went in a bunch of different directions, but here we are 23 years later, and there are still a few people that follow him today and just believe that he is absolutely all the things that he, claimed to be, and that he is just a political prisoner, that, that it's all that he's in there for political reasons. They don't believe the children, they don't believe the adults, and. So, there are some weird websites and a few YouTube channels that still promote his teaching, but they've mostly been scrubbed. I mean, because he was, convicted and all this stuff, a lot of it they spring up, but they don't last long. So his current status, y'all, is he is serving a 135-year sentence in federal prison. I was actually glad to know that he is still alive and he's on lockdown and he's isolated and he is basically legally done for. The Yeah, it said on one deal that the only pyramid that he's around now is the food pyramid on the prison tray. So, yeah, so that was that part, and here we go. So as of 2025, so just as of this year, he is incarcerated at the administrative U.S. penitentiary Florence Admax in Colorado. It's one of the highest security federal prisons in the U.S., so AKA Supermax. He was born on June 26th of 1945, and he'll turn 80 years old this year. So he's getting up there. He is reported to be a diabetic and has had some strokes, but I couldn't find any kind of proof. And in fact, it said that there's no kind of anything that says that he's got any kind of terminal illness, or anything that would end his life anytime soon. So that's where he's at now. Oh, and it said that he is not near release. That a lot of the, or not a lot, but several of the people that are still in his cult have tried to 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 do appeals and to get him out. Basically saying he's a political prisoner, trying to get him clemency. He's old, he ain't gonna hurt nobody, blah 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 blah. But so far, the judges have been like, no, not buying it, and they haven't let him out or anything. And it doesn't look like they have any plans to. I do have this picture of him. This is his picture when he got arrested in 2002, and whenever the article from the paper when he was sentenced to 135 years. Look at that big old smile. He was so proud of himself. So hope he's still proud. So yeah, what an asshole, right? And then I found this one too, the breakdown, total followers ever involved were somewhere in the vicinity, an estimate of 5,000. Of course, he claimed there was 100,000 plus, which is not a credible number. Sounds familiar too, doesn't it? So, active members in the peak of this cult in Georgia was, somewhere in the 400 to 500 range, and 200, somewhere in the around 200 to 400 actually lived on the Tampa Ray property. And then followers still loyal post arrest is just a few dozen, mostly online, off grid, just small little pockets here and there. So, yeah, he's not he's not near the big thing he thought he was. And before I go to the chat, y'all, I did want to put this up. This is just a deal of the next, well, 6, 5 after today of the next shows that I'm doing. Tomorrow is a 90s purity culture. We're going to have a guest on tomorrow that actually was involved in the purity culture, so that ought to be really interesting. Um the next day we're having eating disorders in men and women. It's not really known that men suffer not as often as women, but they do suffer from eating disorders too. And since this is Men's Mental Health Month, I wanted to throw that out there. We've got some more shows covering men's mental health next week. So then on, I think it's Thursday. Yeah, Thursday, we're going to be getting to know James Collins. That's James Collins Cares. He's got his own channel and he's also a mod for Sammy. And so a lot of you probably know him from there. We're just going to sit down and have a conversation and get to know him. And then Friday, we are talking about, will we ever truly be accessible? That's going to be about the different accessibility deals for people that have, I don't like the word handicapped, and I can't think of what word I'm supposed to be using. I never say handicapped, but disabled. There we go. So anyway, and there's a lot of disabilities. It can be blindness, deaf. It can be even some of the things like, oh gosh, different, just different issues. My brain's not working. I'm so sorry. So anyway, and then on Saturday, we are going to talk about crazy things that people Google. What I'm kind of hoping to do is kind of have on Saturdays, we're going to start doing like silly Saturdays and just doing something that's fun. It's the weekend, it's coming up summer. I just thought that it would be fun to have one day where we just kind of like shake off the week and all the stuff that we've, talked about. Yes, mobility issues and, and, and just do something fun. So that's what I'm wanting to do with that, y'all, is just have a silly Saturday. Now, these are subject to change. If anything huge comes up, then of course, we'll adjust those timelines or adjust the days they're on or whatever we need to do. But that's our plan anyway. So now I'm going to actually check in with the chat. We have just a few starred comments. Thank you, Mischief. And I'm going to go down through here. Oops, I guess I should just hit the part that says starred instead of doing that. Boy. Poppy the Boxer says, I have a three-legged cat, so between him and the one-eyed dog and me in a wheelchair, we make a special family. I think you make a great family. That's amazing. That is amazing. Absolutely. Okay, Joel says, Poppy, special needs pets are just that special. You are a grand person for being able to take care of them. I'm proud of you. Absolutely. Poppy says, Joel, they definitely don't let it hold them back. They're amazing and have big personalities. They're my babies. Absolutely. It would help if I would push the right thing. Yeah. Quiet, peaceful dance. We should play cult bingo. That's something we really should do. That would be great. Some of this stuff that I see, I'm thinking, man, that was not on my bingo card. Yeah, tell me you're in a cult without telling me you're in a cult. Absolutely. Absolutely. I say this all the time. I agree. Mare says there must be a cult manual. They all seem to read the same book. Absolutely. I agree completely. Wackadoodle is right. Absolutely, Mischief. It is. Yes, I'm glad it's gone too, Mischief. I really am. Yeah. A political prisoner makes perfect sense, right? Yeah. Yes, Stacia, I agree. That's a humanitarian effort. Glad it's gone. I am too. I truly am. And apparently, from everything I read, the people from around there are thrilled. They did not want to be reminded of anything that went on there. They all feel just sick over it. Just ugh, which I would too. Awakened says, to me, I feel like cults must have a manual that they pass along to certain narcissistic abusers as well. So many reoccurring control traits. I know, right? That is so true. Absolutely the truth. She says, oh, yeah, how many grow farms have they arrested many Chinese immigrants? Not really, but yeah, there's a lot. There's been a lot going on. We hear about stuff all the time. I think that they're gonna have to just start arresting the locals that are doing it too, because at this point they know they're just greedy. They're just greedy. Yeah, Awaken says, "In the stores that sell bath salts got shut down within weeks. It is back up and running. Same family, same people." Yeah, it happens. Darcy says, "Have you heard of Mother God?" I think that that's gonna be I think she's on the list. She might be next week, so I'm gonna write it down to see, but I'm pretty sure she's next week. That's funny. So, Awaken says, "Regardless of race, culture, they all have they all they can all have horrible, can have amazing, but we can't ignore the facts." Yeah, when facts are shown, absolutely. This was this was bad. Mayor says wealthy Chinese buy up properties to launder money. Same part or sad part is it makes the average Chinese people look bad. I agree. I absolutely agree. Don't you know they're just hating it? The good ones, they're just like, oh, just like the good in anything. They're just absolutely hating the crooked ones. Misha says it's sad how even the ugly agendas of others are twisted and turned more in their favor by causing division simply because people refuse to open their eyes. Yes. Yes, absolutely. Joel says if he is in super max, he is never getting out. That is where the worst of the worst go. I bet he's having fun, don't you? They must have thought he was awfully bad, but they said hundreds, of charges. I mean, it was like they didn't all stick, but they had, you know, a lot. Yeah, Misha, our government should have been more watchful. Canada is finally cracking down. Yeah. Yeah, don't forget to vote on Susie's poll on her community page, y'all. That was another thing I was going to bring up. I knew there was something else. I do have a poll that has to do um, with what kind of content that you want to see on here. And there's a couple choices. Well, there's three. There's two actual choices and then one that's other. But if y'all hit the other, you need to tell me, leave a message and leave what kind of other you're talking about because I want to do the content that you all want. Whatever that is, however that is, whenever that is. I can't please everybody, but I can try, right? I can absolutely try. So there is a poll on my community page, which is just called posts now, I believe. So please go check that out and vote. So anyway, and Joel says, Susie, your friend is printing guy. He works for the biggest printer in Colorado. I left the Rocky Mountain News in '97. It closed in '04. I bet he was there after I left. Yeah, probably. Yeah. He's something. You would remember him. I mean, he's a mess. Like if you knew him, you would remember him. So so that's what we've got for today, y'all. We made it right at an hour. I'm trying to get back on some of these back to our normal hour instead of going 2 hours, 2.5 hours. That's okay when I've got a guest, but when it's just me, that's a long time to have to listen to just my voice. So anyway, I am gonna go. I'm gonna fix some dinner and have some dinner with my husband tonight and Megan made me barbecued chicken and potato salad and baked beans last night for dinner for my birthday since we didn't ever actually go out. So that was fun. And I think next weekend, I think maybe on Saturday because next Sunday is Father's Day, y'all. So I think next Saturday, me and both of my daughters are going to go have a girls' day and just go maybe go have some Mexican food and a couple of margaritas or something and just sit around and talk. It feels like forever since we've caught up. So I'm gonna be looking forward to that, and I will be looking forward to tomorrow. Can't wait to meet you back here at 6 o'clock Central, and I will see everybody tomorrow. Love you all. Bye bye.
Hope you enjoyed the show, so glad you were here. We meet here most days, we're but first coffee and you're welcome here. We talk about hard subjects, but we also laugh a lot. If you have a loss or win, we will cheer for you. We're but first coffee and you are safe here. So hit those like and subscribe buttons, notifications set to all. You don't wanna miss a show, because this is your home to y'all. So hit those like and subscribe buttons, notifications set to all. You don't wanna miss a show, because this is your home to y'all. So hit those like and subscribe buttons,